It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. We see on the Sharp Interactive board, I have one of my Rayisms up there. I want to read this to you. I came up with this over the weekend. So I want to read this. I wanted to let it sink into your head a little bit. And then I'm going to recap an article that I saw in the Imaging Channel magazine regarding the HP Amplify 2022 meeting. So without any further ado, let's jump on the Sharp Interactive board. I want to read you what I wrote this weekend. Trying to please everyone during an industry's consolidation, you will end up on the side of the complacent. Because consolidation is a brutal battle. The strength needed eliminates pleasing the complacent. Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. We've all heard that saying, you can't please everyone. Try to please everyone, you please no one. As I watch the organizations in the Document Imaging Channel, those friends of mine that sell, supply, and service print equipment, go through the most disruptive change in the industry's history. Basically, their continuous relevance is at stake. That's a fact. And we hear a lot of talk about transition. We see the clubs starting up. We're going to help dealers transition. But at the end of the day, here's the problem. It's not going to happen if the goal is to be 100% focused on pleasing everyone. Whether you're an analyst, whether you're a consultant, doesn't matter what your position is in our space. If you truly want to help our friends maintain a continuous relevance, you can't run around trying to please everyone. Because when you do that, you end up doing what I call business washing. We've all heard of greenwashing. You know, HP is notorious about their greenwashing, right? But folks, we're doing a lot of business washing. In other words, we're washing the realities of the business model with nonsense. And we're running around trying to please everybody because our platforms are built by getting money from everybody. And the problem with that is you can't continue to business wash, to whitewash, to propagate OEM's nonsense without challenging them. You can't run around and try to build clubs where everybody in the club has to be best friends or they can't enter the club, where everybody has to think exactly alike or assimilate to a certain way of thinking, a passive way of thinking, a complacent way of thinking. Because during the industry's greatest disruption in its history, it's going to get brutal. And the more pressure that's put on the industry's actors, the more brutal it's going to get. And I just think you all need to prepare yourself for that, because it's not going to be tiptoeing through the daisies. It's going to be stomping them damn down as you walk through the field of status quo to get to the other side and maintain that continuous relevance. So folks, let's just jump right in here. You can find the article. It's out there in the Imaging Channel magazine. It's titled An Industry Look at the HP Amplify Executive Forum 2022. And folks, all the industry analysts have done some kind of a story about the HP Amplify meeting. You know, they have all done them, and they're all pretty much the same. The one thing I did find a little different with the one that Patricia put out there, she actually shared at the end of the article what we think, and I guess that was her and the whole team, what they thought about it, put their little synopsis together. I'll talk about that in a second. But let's just jump in here. The first thing I want to do is I want to show you the Eureka Lawrence loves to get on LinkedIn and talk about how they're so sustainable and the company's wonderful and they're stewards to the world, and they keep contributing revenue to the fact that they're stewards to the world and they're wonderful to everybody. And he's saying that they did $3.5 billion in sales in FY21 because of all these wonderful things that HP does. I just laugh. I think it's the craziest, stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, is you could sell something, and right before the customer signs the order, just ask them, do you care about the environment? Oh, yeah, we sure do. Well, is one of the reasons you're buying from HP because we care about the environment? Oh, yeah, that's one of the reasons. It's crazy, isn't it? Let me ask HP a question. Eureka Lawrence, this is right for you. So you have a customer, let's say they sign a $500 million deal with you. I'm going to put printers in all their hospitals or whatever the customer is. And they tell you that we're doing this because you guys are so wonderful to the environment. That's why we're buying from you, HP. And then that hospital decides that they're going to put remanufactured toner in all those printers they bought, all those $500,000 worth of printers. They're going to put remanufactured toner in there, and they find out that you pushed out a firmware, locked them all out, and they can't do it. Are you going to give them back all their money because they bought from you because you were this environmental steward? You were all about sustainability, helping the planet. The hospital decided to use remanufactured cartridges. You pushed out a firmware, locked out those remanufactured cartridges. Are you going to give back the money? Because I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the headline to say in 2021 we did $3.5 billion in business because of our efforts around the world and our good stewardship. But we had to give back 600,000 of it because the customer found out that we're not really that environmentally friendly when it comes to cartridges going into our printers. Folks, their stock's at $24.92 before the opening bell today. It's basically dropped 32% in 120 days. And I believe that the shareholders are going to put a lot of pressure on the leadership and the board. And what will that pressure do to HP? What will HP do when they get all this pressure? Y'all better start thinking about it, because they're not the only ones that are going to go under pressure, folks. A lot of our friends are going to be under pressure from the investors. So I just call it Amplify Madness, and this is coming right out of the article. It has been 2 years since HP launched the HP Amplify program. The program is centered around leveraging customer data to unlock new opportunities and improve customer experience. According to HP, 98% of the partners are sharing data, providing the company with 14 billion data points to analyze and help dealers capitalize on opportunities invisible to the human eye. Okay, I got to ask everybody a question, especially those early adopters to Amplify. You're the dealer, you sign up with Amplify. I mean, this is so exciting. You're going to give them all your data, and then they're going to take this data, because they're such geniuses with data, and they're going to start analyzing it. And then they're going to call you up. Hey, Mr. Dealer, aren't you glad you're on Amplify? Well, I'm not really sure, HP. Well, you're going to be glad today, because we looked at the data that you've been sending us, and guess what? You have a hospital in the marketplace right now. You could go in there and you could generate at least $200,000 worth of business. And we found that out by looking at your data, because you weren't smart enough to look at your own data. That's why you're giving us all the data, right? Folks, this is so absurd. What? How many dealers or resellers out there can contribute revenue because they gave HP data through Amplify? Good question, right? Put it in the comments. Maybe Eureka can put that in the comments. You know, the data that we collected from our resellers enabled our resellers to sell this and that. Don't just come up with a number, because they talk about this further in this article. Wait till I get to that part. But, you know, folks, this whole thing about this $3.5 billion in sales because they're stewards, it's just so absurd. Let me just throw out some of my remarks here. Obviously, they aren't printer customers locked out by firmware. I already talked about that. Has HP replaced spin selling with spinning nonsense? Really? I mean, what do? They go into the customer and they tell the customer, you know, would you like to be part of the $3.5 billion in sales that we contribute to the fact that we're such great stewards to the world and the environment? Do you want to be part of that? And the customer's like, oh, I'd love to be part of that. I love the environment of the world so much, HP. I got to buy from you. I'm so glad you showed up. Most of the stuff HP talks about around how they're good stewards for the world are absolute permissions to show up in today's working world. And I've talked about this before. They're a global company. What's the alternative? Be a bunch of lunatics? I mean, what's the alternative? And by the way, HP, you know, you're not like perfect. Okay? We've seen some things out there. You know, you can look at some legal activities going on out there around HP and hiring and all this kind of stuff. They're just like everybody else. They make mistakes, you know. But most of the stuff they talk about, it's just permission to show up. It's not anything fantastic. You're not this great company because you're doing these things. And then they talk about how they're going to bring in the instant ink to the small business. I did a video on this before, but I just got to ask all my dealer friends a question, because I did a couple of videos over the weekend, and then I wrote, or last week, and then I wrote an article regarding a DCA tool, MPS monitor, being bought up by Valsoft. Gave my thoughts on that. And folks, here's the, and I actually put in the article I wrote, are dealers funding DCA tools? It's like, it almost looks to me like it's a construction project to build an HP DCA tool. Because some of these DCA tools do a lot of business with HP. And in order for them to get the money needed to keep developing those DCA technologies, they need to get the money from all the dealers that have all the MIFs. But the question remains, you know, we saw EKM, in Europe sell off to Tech Data, right? TD SYNNEX, so the big distributor, I've talked about that a lot. But what happens when one of these DCA technologies decides to sell directly to HP? Hey, HP, we're glad you were working with us. You know, we finally got this thing perfected. You want to buy it? Oh, that'd be awesome. Something to think about, friends. And I'm sure the DCA people are going to put in the comments of today's video that Ray's got a conspiracy theory that the DCA tools are going to be bought by HP. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they could be. Not that they are. And dealers need to think about what could happen to prepare themselves just in case it probably happens. Let's talk about this. So last page of the article, Patricia says, what did we think? And let me just read what they think over there at the Imaging Channel about the Amplify meeting. The hybrid office and future work is going to play a big role in shaping HP's future. In its print business, HP is focusing on hardening devices and enabling businesses to simplify the task of managing increasingly distributed fleets. Meanwhile, the company is focusing a lot of time and energy into growing new revenue streams outside of print. HP is bringing new remote conference and hybrid office technology to market, ensuring the channel has a portfolio that is relevant to customers' needs. HP had $6 billion in revenue coming from the channel last year. With the latest enhancements to the program, we anticipate that HP's channel revenue will continue to grow. Folks, that's a little, I just want to clarify this. If you read through the article, HP contributed $6 billion in channel growth. Okay? But they didn't specify the document imaging channel. They just said channel growth. And I think sometimes when you read stuff like this, you might think that HP contributes, they got $6 billion worth of growth in the imaging channel, those dealer friends of mine. And that's not the case. It's overall. It's overall. So just something to think about. But I would take HP at their word. And just let me go back to this. It has been 2 years since HP launched the Amplify program. The program is centered around leveraging customer data to unlock new opportunities and improve customer experience. According to HP, 98% of partners are sharing data, providing the company with 14 billion points of analyzed help dealers' capabilities. They love the data, right? They love the data. So let me just share what I think. Of course, on the end of the day with Ray, I actually will say, this is what I think. I can hold myself accountable. This is my thoughts, right? Well, let me just go to the bottom in red first. I believe HP will amplify the pressure to obtain loyalty, and dealers will have to decide if loyalty to HP is worth it. Dealers will also have to think about how being loyal to HP will affect the value of their dealership. Better think about it. If you got an OEM out there that you're partnered with, and that OEM has massive amounts of your data, how does that affect your dealership? When someone that maybe doesn't like HP wants to buy you. You better think about it. Now I'm sure you're going to hear some folks that are going to go right to the comments and they're going to say, Ray said there's a big conspiracy out there and HP is going to not allow dealers to sell their businesses because they have all the data. The dealers will never be able to sell their business, blah, blah, blah. Go on. Here's what I'm asking my dealer friends to think about. Just think about the possibilities. Just think about the possibilities. And what does that mean to you when you're giving away massive amounts of data? HP's goals are completely, let me just read my thoughts. HP's goals are completely misunderstood by the industry's analysts. And that's all of them. I believe it's by all the analysts, all the blog writers, everybody out there. The desperation that HP is facing as their stock is in free fall could be extremely dangerous to all dealers and resellers. We continue to see HP greenwashing and at the same time tightening up and locking out competitive threats regarding supplies. We also see HP bragging about getting channel resellers to give them data. Here's my question for everybody. When do resellers believe that the data they gave HP is more valuable than the reseller agreements they have with HP? Think hard about this. How will HP value this data? And where will they get that value from? Because data's worth a lot. But who's it worth? Who's the one that's going to benefit from what it's worth? You, the dealer, HP, a future HP merger. Folks, a lot to think about when you're shuffling data around. A lot to think about in today's episode. But remember, if you run around and you try to please everyone, it's going to be really, really hard for the industry's analysts and the blog holders out there to ask questions to spark the imaginations of an entire channel. A channel that needs to have their imagination sparked, because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you tomorrow.